afternoon and welcome to the Midday News on 3FM 92.7. My name is Beatrice Adu. The news is also live on Kesmi 107.1 FM and across the world at 3news.com. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Former Director of National Signals Bureau, Kwabena Adu, rearrested and detained by Yoko on fresh charges. We take you live to court for update.
They released him midnight and then rearrested him on the basis of the newfound matters they were looking at. But the question is...
We'll bring you some more. Also, private citizen petitions the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice Shraj to investigate what he describes as suspicious display of wealth by Gold Board CEO Sami Gyamfi. And much later on the program, Ministry of Transport races against time to avert a full-blown strike by workers of Ghana Railway Company over unpaid salaries. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Now, former Signals Bureau Director Kwabena Adu has been rearrested and is currently in detention at the Economic and Organized Crime Office, EOCO, on a separate charge. His lawyer, Samuel Atachia, explains that the ex-spy chief was rearrested and detained at midnight on Monday, May 13, 2025. That's today. Meanwhile, the Accra High Court has reinstated the bail terms for Adu following the expiration of a 7-day detention. On May 2, 2025, the court granted Mr. Adu bail at the sum of 80 million Ghana cedis after his lawyers successfully argued for a reduction from the initial 120 million Ghana cedis. Adu and his wife, Angela J. Boating, alongside a third accused, Mildred Donko, and Advantage Solutions Limited, are facing 11 counts of conspiracy to commit crime, stealing, using public office for profit, money laundering, and causing financial loss to the state. They are alleged to have stolen 49.1 million Ghana cedis from state coffers. In a recent development, the embattled former spy chief, in a memo addressed to the National Security Coordinator, accused the Attorney General of malicious prosecution. He claimed that the 49 million Ghana cedis in question was used for covert national security operations, including 8 million Ghana cedis allegedly spent on an opposition political party. Lord Edwasare is our court affairs correspondent. He joins us live on the phone. Lord, just tell us what we do know about the new preferred charges.
Right, so Beatrice, you'd recall that at the last agenda date, the former Signals Bureau Director, Kwabena Adu, he was remanded for 7 days because the Attorney General indicated that he has the potential to interfere with the witnesses. Now, in court today, the judge had ordered that after the 7-day detention, he be released and then his former or previous bail that he was granted be reinstated. Now, his lawyer, Atacha, indicated to us that he was arrested in the VRS today after he was released, and they told him that there was another issue that they were investigating him for, and this issue has to do with the fact that they alleged that the former Signals Bureau Director procured some gadgets and equipment for the Ghana Water Company. He also provided internet services for the Ghana Water Company. And so this charge is just still investigating, and they are yet to bring that to court because Matasha indicated to the court that although his bill for the previous charge of the causing financial loss to the state, which has his wife and then 2 others as parties, that bill is in force. It has been reinstated because he has finished serving the 7-day detention. But this new charge, Atasha indicated to the court, that is not before the court. And so he was now going to the EOCO to go and get clarity on what the case was really about, and then he will pick up from then onwards.
Lord, I want us to listen to the lawyer for the embattled former boss, the former or the ex-spy, Atachia, and then we'll come back to continue the conversation.
The judge, at the last sitting, the judge ordered that he should have his freedom yesterday. And they said they have another matter that they are investigating concerning him. So when he was supposed to have his freedom, by their calculation, they released him midnight and then rearrested him on the basis of the newfound matters they were looking at. But the question is, in the period in which he had the freedom, why didn't they deal with the matter? And they'll leave it till midnight and rearrest him. Is somebody very excited, incarcerating another Ghanaian with all manner of tactics who aid justice. And that is unfortunate.
So is he in the custody of Yoko right now?
He's come back to Yoko, and I'm going there now for me to come to terms with what is the new matter, what is the new issue. You see, because he's been there all this while, and if there were serious matters of consequence, and he's on bail, huge bail, 80 million Ghana cedis bail, he's living nowhere.
And you heard Atachia, his lawyer for the former Signals Bureau Director Kwabena Adu, obviously unhappy about the rearrest of his client after midnight, Lord. But did the matter of his memo to the National Security Coordinator regarding the distribution of funds come up in court at all?
Basically, so interestingly, it did not come up during the hearing or the proceedings because none of them raised that issue. But during engagement, after the proceedings, we sought clarity on the memo, and then Sasha indicated to us that that memo was actually an advice to the incumbent National Security Coordinator, because he sought to let him know that to forward the advice or to draw the attention of the Attorney General and then the Yoko that they are treading on very slippery slope or ground, because he cannot be a national security person allegedly from what Atacha was saying. So I sought to get clarity on how that affects his case. He said as far as he's concerned, he has not done his part, but he would follow the matter and engage with the national security and see where that matter has come up, because if you recall, it cited certain individuals in government and then outside government. And so he indicated that some people have been offended, and so they are going to look at all that. And then
Lord, I want you to hold on again as we listen to Atachi, and then we'll come back to wrap up our conversation.
Well, it was unfortunate that it leaked, because the letter was intended for the National Security Coordinator, in which he was trying to let him know that where he is, national security matters are being raised. And he should come to terms with it. That's what he was trying to do. He was not saying that he's afraid to defend himself, but he's saying that they are pushing him in areas of national security. And when push to come to shove, he has to defend himself. And somebody will turn around and why is a national security intelligence officer trying to bring into the public domain national security matters when he's sworn an oath. So you swear an oath, the national security will not come to your aid, so you go to jail. That will be unfortunate.
All right.
It will be a tragedy that cannot be calculated.
And you had the lawyer Atacha. He's representing the ex-spy Adu Boahene. Lord Edwasari is still on the line to wrap up our conversation. Lord, we heard Atacha saying earlier that he was heading towards Iyoko to try and understand things. Beyond that, is there any other thing he said?
No, so basically he wants to know the gravitas of the case and then what they can do about it, because officially that charge has not been put before the court. And so we are yet to find out if at the next agenda that new charges that have been proffered against Kwabena Adu. And I need to note that this new charge only mentions Kwabena Adu, his wife, and then the two other accused persons in the previous matter in this case. And so in court also, the judge ordered the prosecution, which was led by the Deputy Attorney General, Dr. Sremsai, to file all their witness statements and then disclosures and serve it on the prosecution and then accused persons, because the Deputy Attorney General had indicated that all the witnesses have signed their statements. And so when we are back in court, we see how things will move on from there.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Lord Adu Asare. He's our court affairs correspondent. Some 11 minutes past the hour of 12. This is the Midday News on 3FM 92.7. Don't go away.
Freezer, yeah, diaba. Adama for diaba. A freezer. Adama, a craftsmanship. Adama. Metimosua, my sorry. Canino, Obo Moasia. I do for Nobium Unum and San last night. I don't know what we did. Adama for Adula from what we say. Yeah, the Adruba Cope, a ship will be a high technology. I go for freezer. When Kwan, and once open your 15 letters. No fugum, what ya no fugum. What the boss here, for you be any what you equity self, over Timono. Then we sure say, woman shown task here. Then what's enough for now? Freezer, power up a day. Freezer,
Dacia, a person does so among Amuniaji.
To me, Miwasika, to me, but you may not do some doom. Adama, with that Adama, no queer. Adama, you can't resist.
Ubenya Adama West Africa for a dream, or baby bear a tongue cry on who you. I say, Kayona Kinkai in Choya, a dream.
And you're still here on the Midday News on 3FM 92.7. Thank you so much for staying. Now, the Minority Caucus in Parliament has raised constitutional and legal issues over the absence of the President of Ghana, John Mahama, and his vice, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman, without the swearing in of an acting president. The minority argues that this is in clear breach of the Constitution as required under Article 60 of the 1992 Constitution. Now, this article says that when both the President and Vice President are unavailable, the Speaker of Parliament must be sworn in to act as President. However, the Speaker of the House, Right Honourable Speaker Alban Bagbin, is also out of the jurisdiction, prompting the minority to describe the situation as alarming. The minority, in a press release, further argued that with the Chief Justice currently suspended, there is no legal authority in place to administer the oath of office, creating what they describe as a vacuum of executive authority. Joseph Akable is with our legal desk. He joins me live in the studio. Joseph, just really bring us an understanding of the argument the minority is making.
So there are two constitutional provisions that they make reference to. The first one has to do with Article 6011 and 6012 of the 1992 Constitution. Now, the 6011 provides that where the President and Vice President are both unable to perform the functions of the President, the Speaker of Parliament shall perform those functions until the President or Vice President is able to perform those functions or a new President assumes office. Then the 12, it provides that there shall, before commencing to perform the functions of the President under Clause 11 of this article, take and subscribe the oath set out in relation to the office of the President. Now, the question of what constitutes unable to perform the functions came up for interpretation in the Supreme Court in the case of Professor Kweku Asare versus the Attorney General. In that case, the Supreme Court did indicate that the conclusion was to the effect that Article 6011 is where both the Vice President and the President are absent from Ghana. They are to be regarded as being unable to perform their functions. And so it makes the point that anytime the two are out of the country, it means that the Speaker of Parliament would have to perform those functions. Now, a situation occurred in 2015 where both were not in the country. Dua Jawa taking the oath to act as president. Then when they came back, they traveled again. And he was asked to take the oath, and he said he had taken the oath before, and he was not going to take the oath again. So that matter again ended up at the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said that we are of the opinion that the Speaker is obliged by the requirements of the Constitution to subscribe to the oath each time that he assumes the onerous responsibility as president in order to exercise the functions of that office. That is Justice Sulik Badegbe speaking on behalf of the Supreme Court. Now, you realize that in all the hierarchy that is being mentioned, it only says President, Vice President, and Speaker.
The Speaker. It
does not mention what happens after these three individuals.
But we also do know that, for instance, the Chief Justice is number 4 in our Constitution, because you have President 1, Vice President 2, Speaker number 3, and then the Chief Justice.
In terms of the constitutional provision on absence, it ends at the Speaker of Parliament. It does not mention the Chief Justice directly. And so they are those who make the argument that, well, in the absence of any direct mention, let's assume the Chief Justice is the one acting. Then the question that they raise is that if the President and the Vice are not around and the Speaker has to take an oath, then if the three are not around, who administers the oath to the Chief Justice to take over? So that's the question that is being asked. The second question that people are also asking is that, well, if the president is not around and the vice takes over, then if the speaker is not around, should the deputy speaker not be the one that takes over before it moves into another arm of government? And so all those are matters that have formed the arguments that are being put across by the minority, where they take the view that they believe an unconstitutional conduct has taken place. But so far, there hasn't been an official communication either from the presidency or from parliament confirming the absence of these individuals, with the exception of the president that we know is on tour in the sub-region.
Indeed, but we have an idea whether or not someone seeks to challenge this in court as well, because you cited the one about the speaker, Doaja, who then refusing to take the oath a second time and being asked, per the Supreme Court's own ruling, that, well, anytime you have to assume that position, you need to retake the oath. Do we know whether there's going to be another opportunity at the court to see the way forward on this?
In fact, it's one aspect of the statement from the minority that a lot of people were looking out for in terms of the next steps. I mean, beyond raising the issues, they do not indicate any desire to take the matter up to the Supreme Court for some answers to be provided. And as it stands now, no one has taken the matter up over to the Supreme Court. So it still remains an unclear area while we wait for official communication to confirm whether the speaker is indeed not in the country and who is acting in his stead, because as of now, there's even not a substantive chief justice, there's an acting chief justice.
But the acting chief justice has already some level of authority, because he's been, recently he reconstituted a panel for certain cases.
Fact,
so
just at a mini call last week of the Ghana, of the lawyers who had been called to the bar, he was the one who was present as well.
So why is the minority making the argument as if we didn't have an acting chief justice?
I mean, the argument premises from the fact that the constitutional provisions does not extend beyond the absence of the speaker. It ends at where the president and vice are not in the country, the speaker acts. So they say that in the absence of a clear provision, the president ought to have taken steps to ensure that we know who is acting as president while he left the country.
Just for the layman, though, would you say that there's a lacuna aside from the fact that the theory demands constitutionally that we do all these things?
It's one area that will still need some judicial pronouncement because of the lack of a clear text. And so we all hold the view that, well, number 4, this is number 3. Remember the whole conversation in Parliament about the speaker and number 3. What's your number? Exactly. Yep. We know that in theory, but in terms of what is on paper, we do not see that on paper, and that is how come this may perhaps be a fertile matter for the Supreme Court to settle for us.
Thank you so much, Joseph Akable. Bring us the latest on this. Let's bring you some more here. The Ghana Railway Authority Company and the Ministry of Transport are racing against time to prevent a full-blown industrial action by railway workers. On Monday, the staff declared an indefinite strike set to take effect today, that's this evening, due to unpaid salaries. The workers' union says that nearly 1,000 employees of the Ghana Railway Company have not received their salaries for the past 7 months, making life unbearable for them and their families. The workers are also protesting the lack of investment to improve the company's efficiency and profitability. As a sign of protest, they have begun wearing red armbands around the planned fall strike, or ahead of the planned fall strike. Safo Abuahene is at the Accra railway station. She joins us live on the phone. Safo, first of all, tell us the current situation at where you are and whether or not the workers are ready to strike.
Yes, Beatrice, so as it stands now, the workers have reported to work, but they are doing what they call a sit-down strike, and so they will always report to work, but they would not steer the train or work as usual. So even though they are present at work, but they want the management to feel their absence because they've not been paid for the past of the month, like you have already mentioned. Then speaking to most of them, they are bearing the brunt of their unpaid salaries, with some abandoned by their spouses for being unable to provide for their families. And speaking to especially the branch, the chairman, who is in the person of the champion justice, he mentioned that they have been engaging with the management for so many months. As of October 2024, that was when their salaries ceased coming in. And every time they speak to them, they keep pushing it up that they would bring it, and they have to settle for the minister to be appointed. They have to wait for the minister to be vetted. So they keep on pushing up and down. They have not received any salary as of this time. And so they are telling the management that if they do not pay what is due them for the past 7 months, even though they will come to work, that they will not be productive any longer.
You tell us that from the look of things, they are ready to strike. But do you see any last-minute, effort by management to avert this?
Not at all. Unfortunately, we are unable to speak to any of them close by. But from the workers' union, the executives were the ones who were able to speak to. And as of now, there hasn't been any productive communications that have gone on between the workers and the management. And so they are rather going into a very harsh way of communicating to their management, so that if they do not come to their cry and their plea and do not pay the amount that is due them or owe them, then they are not going to work even though they will be present. So we were at the Accra the Accra railway, and we did not see any presence of the train or anything. And they actually mentioned of also the poor conditions concerning their work and even the salary that they are paid in the course of the month. Some of them said they have been working for the past 41 years and they are paid around 2,500 cedis. Someone also said that even though he'll be going on pension in the next 5 to 6 months, what is due him from SNES is about over 14,000 Ghana cedis, which is nothing to write home about. And so even aside the fact that they are supposed to pay their salaries, which has been pending for the past 7 months, there are also other poor working conditions they are telling the management to look at to help their situation.
I'm wondering whether you've seen any passenger and whether or not any of them has expressed concern over the looming strike.
Apparently, it is quite a busy place when you move to the Accra railway. It is busy, but it looks like everyone is doing their business. And so we haven't sighted any passenger or someone who is waiting to take the train to and fro. But one of the executives mentioned that mostly in the morning from Tema, they pick students, they pick traders from Tema through to Accra to also do their business or their appointments. But as of today, they did not do that, and they are very much sure that a lot of them are stranded. And they even intend to help some of the students, especially with the primary and basic students who normally brought the car. Sometimes they try to merge the two so that they do not have to pay the exact amount, which is 8 cedis. So 2 students can pay 8 cedis together because they take into consideration also the fare and then how unfair it is for them, especially for children. But as it stands now, they did not take any students or anyone who was moving from Tema to Accra.
Safa, I want you to hold on briefly while we listen to some of the workers, and we'll come back to conclude our conversation.
So I'm coming to you live from the Accra Railway, and I've been speaking with the Railway Workers Union and speaking to the chairman, specifically a champion justice. He has mentioned that for the past 7 months, the workers here have not received their salaries, which is quite appalling. And for some of them, their spouses have left them and they are having a lot of crisis at home because they do not have any salary to live on. I have with me the chairman and other workers here. I'll be engaging shortly to find out exactly what is happening, that the company has failed, or the management has decided not to pay them their salaries for the past 7 months, because they have been working for the past 7 months even though their salaries have not been paid. So let me engage you, Mr. Justice. What exactly is happening and why this protest today?
Ya ba hima me da se ya o man mu ade e be katwi e mo bibia tibi aberewe wa kokoro ma tibi ya sem a ye kan ni se ya ye adwuma bosome nso e ko bosome wotwe ye nyi akatua na ye no bia so ntimi me kan kire se ene ana okira metua muka.
And he had a railway worker expressing his frustration, and he was speaking earlier to Safwa Boahene. There. Now, President John Mahama says the government is looking at going into secondary production of lithium. Mr. Mahama says that the country will prevent the export of raw materials such as lithium and other earth minerals. Ghana discovered lithium in large quantities in the Volta, Western and Ashanti regions in 2018. President Mahama made the observations in Abidjan, La Côte d'Ivoire, while participating in the Africa CEO Forum 2025, one of the continent's premier platforms for dialogue between political and business leaders.
And we found quite a big quantity of lithium, It's yet to be approved. There's a concession that has been granted. It's waiting to be approved by Parliament. And once that is done, then we have to work the logistics of it, how to start the exploitation. And so that is waiting to happen. But we do export manganese and bauxite in addition. With the lithium, we are looking to go into secondary production, not just export the raw lithium. And so that's part of the discussion with the concession holder, to be able to process the lithium to a certain level before we export it.
The president also spoke about renewable energy, but said it is regrettable that Ghana is doing only 3% of renewable energy processing.
We all know we're in transition to green energy, and so we passed the Renewable Energy Act, which stipulates that at least 10% of our energy mix should come from renewable sources. I'm ashamed to say we are under 3% at the moment. I think 2.71% of our total power production is renewable, and it's mainly in the solar space. Ghana has a comparative advantage to produce solar because we have abundant sunlight. Indeed, if we could export sunlight, we would be one of the richest countries in the world. And so increasing our capacity in solar in terms of, bigger solar power generation. And we've given licenses to several companies to begin to set up, large-scale solar.
And you had President John Mahama. Now, the Lands and Natural Resources Minister Emmanuel Amakofi-Boa has charged the reconstituted 23-member Western Regional Land Commission Board to work to reduce the land registration process to 30 working days. They are also to take steps to decentralize it to make it more attractive. Meanwhile, the Western Regional Minister Joseph Nelson has asked the board to address litigation issues to enable the region harness its land resources, and I'll bring you more on this in our subsequent bulletins. My name is Beatrice Adu. Thank you very much for joining us today. Log on to srinews.com for more news. Have a good afternoon.
Busy on this frequency, 92.7 3 FM. Accra gets busy on this frequency, 92.7 3 FM.
Been a journey of Pan-Africanism and consciousness. It is your regular taxi driver with the urban blend and 3FM 92.7 in living stereo every day, Monday to Friday from 12:30 p.m. till 3 p.m. This is the show everybody listens to, so your business will certainly do well here. My name, Black Rasta. I am the rootical, hairtical, Don Gargan, Mua Fire, come forward. Atinga ya chika fankare, Azure ya chika fankare, Abama ta chika fankare.
3FM, your urban lifestyle radio. Accra gets busy on this frequency, 92.7 3 FM.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Business Daily on 3FM 92.7 with me, Bismarck. Also coming up this afternoon, Ghana Cedi records strongest weekly performance among sub-Saharan African currencies, gains 6.2% against US dollar in retail markets. We'll bring you details. Meanwhile, Bank of Ghana is set to celebrate 60 years of the local currency as symbol of economic sovereignty. And energy analyst Benjamin Nsia calls for government clarity on fuel security following announcement of FPSO malfunction.
As of now, they have not told us whether liquid fuel or other fuels into the system. If there are no other fuels, it means that we are likely going to be in a serious situation.
These stories and others lined up for you. Please stay with me. Thanks for your company. Now to the details. The cedi continues its remarkable rebound, recording a 6.25% week-on-week against the US dollar on the retail market to cement its place as the best performing currency among 15 sub-Saharan African currencies. This brings its year-to-date appreciation to over 16%. The following 3 Business News Desk report has the details. The Ghana cedi strengthened significantly against major international currencies over the past week, trading at 13 cedi 60 pesos to the US dollar on the retail market. This marks a 6.25% gain compared to the previous week and a 16.29% rise since the start of the year. The local currency also gained 7.61% against the British pound and 5.81% to the euro. Analysts attribute the rally to improved market liquidity, which saw a total foreign exchange supply of $378.6 million. Additionally, investor confidence has been bolstered by a credit rating upgrade from global ratings agency S&P. The agency moved Ghana's sovereign credit rating from selective default to CCC+, citing economic growth, fiscal reforms, and better public financial management. With interbank rates currently at 12 cedis 89 pesos to the dollar, the market is seeing a divergence between official and retail trading, but overall sentiment remains positive. Analysts expect the cedi's momentum to continue in the near term, helped by sustained central bank support and renewed investor optimism. And that was a 3 Business News Desk report on the Ghana cedi recording strongest weekly performance among sub-Saharan African currencies, gaining 6.25% against the US dollar in the retail market. Moving on, the Bank of Ghana will this year celebrate 60 years of the cedi, Ghana's national currency, which replaced the Ghanaian pound on July 19, 1965. The central bank says the anniversary, dubbed cedi at 60, will highlight the cedi's journey as a symbol of Ghana's economic sovereignty, resilience, and innovation. Over the last 6 decades, the cedi has undergone several reforms in both policy and design to meet the evolving needs of the Ghanaian economy. The bank says activities to mark the milestone will include exhibitions, educational campaigns, and stakeholder forums across the country from July to December 2025. In a related development, a financial economist, Dr. Beatrice Adu, is calling on the Bank of Ghana to maintain momentum in building the country's gold reserves, citing its importance as a backup for the cedi. Expressing concerns over a recent slowdown on TV3's Business Focus, Dr. Beatrice Adu highlighted Ghana's significant progress in growing gold reserves from 8.28 tons in May 2023 to 30.53 tons by the end of 2024. However, the increase from January to April 2025 was marginal, rising to only 31.37 tons, about 2.4% addition since the government took power.
By making sure that you build a good fundamentals, you will be able to stand the test of time. And in any case, in our gold activity, as we tend to sell more, we are not building our reserves. You see, if we look at the gold reserve over the period, in May 2023, gold reserve of around 8.7 tons. as at January, we were around 30 tons. In the past 4 months, it's about 0.8 tons that have been added to it. So we are not building the reserve. We are interested in selling to get the dollar and inject it. So we should be having the mindset that if we have built it in over 280% within a space of about 15 months, and we've only added about 0.8 tons in 4 months, then we are not doing so well in terms of building our gold reserves. And we may be only selling and pushing the money into the economy.
And that was financial economist Dr. Eric Adu. Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Isiama, has raised alarm over the persistent high cost and inefficiencies associated with cross-border remittances, describing them as a major obstacle to inclusive growth and financial integration across Africa. Speaking at the IMF Sub-Saharan Africa Central Bank Network Seminar on CBDCs and digital payments in Accra, Dr. Isiama pointed to high transaction fees, slow processing times, and lack of interoperability as key challenges that continue to burden families who depend on remittances and small businesses engaged in regional trade.
Cross-border payments in particular, you'll agree with me, hold immense potential to drive inclusive growth and support livelihoods. Yet, these continue to face multiple frictions, high transaction costs, slow processing times, limited transparency, and inadequate interoperability. These challenges arise from a patchwork of regulatory frameworks, legacy systems, different time zones, and a lack of alignment on data standards, consumer protections, and compliance protocols. For our continent, the stakes are quite high. Remittances often are lifelines for our families, but this remains costly and inefficient. Small businesses struggle with the high friction of cross-border trade settlements, and regulators face growing complexity in balancing openness with oversight.
And that was Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Isiama. Before we go, the Center for Environmental Management and Sustainable Energy, CEMSI, has urged the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition to communicate to the nation plans to secure fuel for powering of the various thermal plants in the country to ensure continuous supply of electricity. The call by the Executive Director of CEMSI, Benjamin Insia, follows a technical malfunction at the Jubilee Floating Production Storage and Offloading FPSO vessel. The disruption could result in the loss of between 50 million and 100 million standard cubic feet of natural gas daily to Atuabo gas processing plant.
The Bank of Ghana will this year...
As of now, they have not told us whether there is a lot of liquid fuel or other fuels into the system. If there are no other fuels, it means that we are likely going to be in a serious situation, because most of these thermal plants that would have relied on natural gas from Jubilee will not have natural gas. And if they are not having natural gas, what it means is that they are not going to generate power. If they are not generating power, both households and firms will not get power to ensure that they are able to operate and operate well. So some communication must come as to where we are now in terms of our ability to generate to feed in the country, or we are not able to generate. And if we are not able to generate, how are we going to manage the supply that we have for the time being until these particular challenges resolve once and for all?
You heard there this Executive Director of the Center for Environmental Management and Sustainable Energy, Benjamin Insia, and that brings us to the end of Business Daily on 3FM 92.7 with me, Bismarck Ausa. For more business stories, please check out our website 3news.com. Evan Blend is next with Black Rasta. Please stay.